Right, let's go. What's going on, people? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, host Jan. I do hope you're doing well, mate. Really do hope that. Welcome to Chelsea News. The deal sheet is out. It's Tuesday morning, of course, in a transfer window. So The Athletic have put out a deal sheet that I'm going to react to today. Of course, we are playing in the semi-final tonight. This on the day of the Club World Cup semi-final. So I will be reacting to that. 8 p.m. kickoff. Though storms have been forecast, which is a really terrifying prospect. Hopefully the game isn't called off for 2 hours again, but we'll see what happens, and I'll of course be here to cover the game after it happens, and fingers crossed. But like I said, today we are reacting to the deal sheet. It's the aggregation of Chelsea news on The Athletic, which I think is the leading authority on transfer news, personally. And we're going to see what's being said about Chelsea, who of course have done a lot of business, but it's still being rumoured we will do a lot more. Maybe not necessarily just by Athletic journalists, but you hear some murmurs from different people that not only we have to generate a lot of sales, make sales, generate a lot of revenue, but there's still could be a centre-back signing. There still could be like a left-back cover, Jarell Hatto. People are still whispering about an additional left winger on top of Jamie Gittins. So we're going to see what happens, friends. Guys, in the meantime, thank you for joining me. Bit of housework. Thank you for, supporting the content. You can support me. Liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing, all that stuff. That's really nice. Of course, there's merch available. Goat Gang caps. You probably see me wear this one all the time. This is I do like snapbacks though, like flat peaks. Shirts, hoodies, all that stuff, and some new lovely stuff coming out soon. Let's get into it. Alright, so this is what we're reacting to. The Chelsea segment on the deal sheet, so we're going to hop right in. Has anything happened over the past weeks? Boy, has it. Chelsea confirmed 2 new signings. Firstly, Joao Pedro completed his move from Brighton for a fee in excess of £50 million plus add-ons to make his debut, of course, in the Palmeiras 2-1 win. Jamie Gittins has also finalised the switch to Borussia Dortmund, which is a deal worth £48.5 million, which includes another £3.5 million in add-ons. And there's a sell-on clause as well for Borussia Dortmund. I wonder what those add-ons are. Maybe Premier League winning, Champions League winning. But 48.5 million, not too bad in the end, you'd have to say. The Athletic reported Chelsea winger Noni Maresca has agreed personal terms with Arsenal, but as of time of writing here, a transfer fee has not been discussed by 2 clubs. We will, of course, speak about that again in today's video. Meanwhile, as well, Chelsea have been fined, of course, £27 million by UEFA for breaching their financial rules. Just a quick catch-up on these 3. The UEFA financial rules, this is me obviously speaking, it's a thing that Chelsea are very, quote, relaxed about, and they've expected for a while, and that they are prepared for, and they knew was coming because the hotels and the women's team sales do not affect the UEFA regulations. So we knew that. We'll get on to Noni Maresca a little bit later. Jamie Gittins, yes, seemingly a good signing. Listening to the Straight Out of Cobham Athletic podcast yesterday, suggesting he will probably be Chelsea's starting left winger. High-profile acquisition, one of the best, if not in some ways the best dribbler in Europe. We'll see how that translates to Premier League football, but he did ruddy well in Champions League football, which is always a bonus. And Joao Pedro, of course, I've always, thought he was a great player. I've been saying that on the channel for a long time. But more so than what I was, gassing him, I've heard some people who know a lot more about football than I say that he's such a good player. And actually, this is such a good signing for Chelsea. The more I thought people would condemn us for this signing. Wow, he's not a proper centre-forward. They need to go get Osimhen. Or, they need this, they need that. Why are they buying another, auxiliary, forward who can do these positions? But actually, the more I hear different people speak about him that know about attacking centre-forward positions, a lot of people say, yeah, he's a wicked centre-forward, and the fact how he can play in other positions isn't going to be detrimental to him like a utility man. It's going to be strong because he'll, pull into different spaces and, say it quietly. But a lot of people are thinking Joao Pedro is Chelsea's striker, or to be at least in a few months, which is very exciting. Right, so let's continue. All this is going to be what we want to know. Where does this leave Chelsea's summer budget? Yeah. As highlighted in the transfer deal sheet last week, the priority is to focus now on making sales. That was the priority anyway. Chelsea will continue making more signings in the future. Well, that sounds like us. But the exits will have to impact on who arrives, which you'd have to say was the case anyway, because we've just got way too many players. The club do expect and intend to make a lot of sales before the window shuts on September the 1st. God, there's so much transfer window left. That has the potential to bring in a sizable revenue, which can be reinvested in the squad. As for the UEFA punishment, Chelsea have been preparing for this outcome, even though it includes possible ramifications for new signings being named in the Champions League squad for next season. They are confident it will not be an issue, like I said there previously. So, what positions are Chelsea looking at? Well, the main question right now is whether Chelsea will sign a replacement for Maresca should he complete a move to Arsenal. Yeah. Well, I want to speak a bit more on Maresca shortly. Chelsea will certainly consider it. They made an inquiry to West Ham United for Kudus last month, but it's gone no further than that. He's got strong interest from Tottenham, who've got a £50 million offer rejected, so he'll cost a lot of money, Kudus. Kudus has had poor numbers the last 2 seasons. His sort of, the Kudus truthers and believers will say, and maybe I'm one of them to a degree, but they'll say like, oh, well, West Ham have been absolutely pony, mate. But, use the eye test, look at the kind of player he is, which is true. But does that mean you go and pay crazy money on him? Maybe not. Right, there are other names on the wish list. Manchester United's Alejandro Garnacho has been on there since January. And also we have all asked about Lyon's Malik Fofana. Of course, Lyon are in all kinds of financial peril. Oh, please let me have a bit of peril. Another Monty Python reference, one for the teenagers. Again, John Cleese. Was it John Cleese? No, it was what's his name? Oh my God. Young Michael Palin, when he's in with all the ladies in the castle. Oh, please let me have a little bit of peril. No, it's too much peril. Again, apologies for those who don't understand the reference. However, Chelsea are now monitoring Ethan Nwaneri's situation at Arsenal. Ooh la la! It wasn't just a fleeting throwaway comment on X somewhere. It's being reiterated here on the transfer deal sheet by The Athletic. Chelsea are also now monitoring Ethan Nwaneri's situation. They tried to sign him before he signed his previous deal in 2023. And then is now 1 year left on his contract with talks over an extension yet to bear fruit. Arsenal are optimistic that an agreement will be reached. Yeah, I do wonder. I do think Chelsea are interested, but I think I'm speculating here, but it sort of stinks. Heck, it reeks of Nwaneri's agent going, we know Chelsea want you. Let's just quickly talk to them and be like, will you be interested, Chelsea? Yes, we would be interested. Cool. We're going to leak that and tell everyone to try and apply pressure on Arsenal to extend you for our terms. Presumptuous, but that could happen. Chelsea are also big admirers of Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers. I do like that, but there's kind of the Morgan Rogers style player. A lot of people are assuming he was, if we don't get Joao Pedro, maybe, because they're sort of these similar inside, maybe a winger, but more of a number 10. But I don't know if Morgan Rogers can play up front, but certainly not like Pedro can. But they're like sort of the both versatile attacker, that we were looking for. And now I do wonder if Noni goes, it will be a left winger. It will be more like Jamie Gittins-esque. But, Rogers is wicked, isn't he? Personally, I think it's that. Right, so who could be leaving? Well, for Arsenal trying to sign Madueke, Chelsea will want in excess of £50 million. The club believes the current market justifies such a figure, even with West Ham's valuation, given West Ham's valuation of Kudus and Nottingham Forest agreeing a deal worth an initial £52 million for Elanga. A deal that will go over £55 million for Anthony Elanga. A lot of people, I think Elanga's very good. He's very direct. He's very different to Noni. He'll run. This is the thing. I think Elanga will be better for Newcastle than Madueke would be. So that's why it's a tricky one. Like, that's how much are you worth to the buyer. But I do understand why a lot of people say, oh, this player's better than that one, or that player's better than that one. I think Elanga, so Noni Madueke's got 5 assists over 2.5 seasons at Chelsea. Anthony Elanga got 11 assists in the league last season. And he's the same age. So yes, I'm not saying Elanga's better than Madueke, but let's be real here. Let's look at the data. Do you know what I mean? So we could do an understat comparison, actually, couldn't we? Let me just set that up quickly. Right, here you go. This is the comparison from last season. Noni actually really good. The green represented in the green. Anthony Elanga way better in terms of assists and key passes. Of course, he's better. Now Noni only. This is the frustrating thing with Noni. You'll look at this big green on the right hand side, like expected goals per 90 and shots per 90, and be like, wow, it's really good. But actually, it means he's massively underperforming his XG per 90 because it's only 0.09 better than Elanga, though he takes more than twice as many shots, significantly more than twice as many shots, and he's got higher XG, so he's wasting chance. So Elanga's more of a clinical finisher, Elanga's getting more assists, but Noni is all action and he's involved in what's going on. But really, all this is doing is highlighting that, you know, both are good players. You can understand why people are making cases for either, but I understand why Chelsea wants similar money for Noni Madueke, that why Elanga went for to Newcastle. Now, let's talk about Noni briefly then. Look, the tough thing is, surely there's no coming. Is there no coming back? I don't know. Like I think I spoke about this recently. That once you've agreed personal terms with Arsenal, you know, when you've been playing, you've just won a trophy, you're playing in the Club World Cup. You know, and clearly Maresca was annoyed at one of his players that he's currently coaching in a competition has agreed personal terms with Arsenal. Now, this whole tapping up thing that used to be like a crime and illegal seemingly doesn't exist anymore. It's like a thing of the past. Now you're allowed because you want to know if the player will join before you waste time asking, you know, a club for would they take offers and stuff. But it does leave you in this situation where Chelsea fans all know that Noni Madueke has agreed to go to Arsenal and wants to go to Arsenal. And like, you know, Chelsea fans have sort of, you know, I think they sung his name sometimes, but like they supported him throughout his, like, you know, theatrics of trying to rip a penalty away from Jackson, fighting on the pitch, from looking, you know, moody and miserable and throwing strops when he gets substituted, you know, and he's a great player, Noni. I'd be very happy to keep him generally, but I think all of us were thinking, well, obviously Neto starts over him on the right, and he's not going to hold the position out of position on the left. It's going to be a Gittins or, you know, whatever. So it does leave us in a position now where there's probably no coming back for Noni. I mean, is there? And if Arsenal have, you know, even if Arsenal haven't approached Chelsea yet, they've agreed personal terms with a player. That is a demonstration of intention of liking the player. Surely. Of course, he's only got 5 assists, which is really poor, but he does get the odd goal. Of course, his goal tally is inflated slightly by the hat-trick at Wolves, all fed by Cole Palmer, and he did win a man of the match for the England senior team playing against Andorra, which is Andorra, but it's a competitive match, and he's 23 years old. A lot of people recognise Noni as a good player. I've spoken at length about how it makes Arsenal better, but how it's not necessarily the guy they need. I think I said this on my Instagram, I'll say it here. I feel like my position on Madueke is if Bukayo Saka was a left winger at Arsenal and they've spoken for so long, oh, we need to get this right winger, then I'd be like, oh, I wouldn't feel so great about it. But because we know he's not going to usurp Bukayo on the right, he'll just offer good, solid cover on the right. And he shouldn't really be the first choice left winger at Arsenal for a multitude of reasons. He doesn't really make them that much better, rather than just reinforcing the squad. And of course, being he'll make us a lot of money, really, provided we get the market value. So let me know what you think about Noni going to Arsenal, or is there any way back for him at Chelsea now he's agreed terms with Arsenal? Let me know in the comments. Let's move on. Alright. Despite making 4 appearances at the Club World Cup, Chelsea is still willing to listen to bids for Christopher Nkunku, which is mental. It should be desperately looking to sell Nkunku. I know, you guys, many of you will be like, well, he's played well, he's got good application, a good attitude lately, and I agree. I do, especially compared to the end of last season. I thought his attitude stunk. He clearly doesn't fit, but I've always maintained he's an excellent footballer in Nkunku. But even with a good attitude, even with slightly getting better, trying to fit in more and more, you'll never utilise his full power in this Chelsea team under Maresca. So therefore, for his own good, he needs to go elsewhere. Bayern Munich liked the player and Manchester United remained keen. Remember in January we put a price tag of £65 million. I remember it being 70 from some outlets, which was mental. We tried to make a £20 million profit on a player that had barely played for Chelsea. Anyway, and clearly didn't fit. Another forward who could depart Stamford Bridge is Nicholas Jackson, who was not considered untouchable, end quote, following the arrivals of Delap and Joao Pedro. Yeah, I do think Nico Jackson would like to stay. There's been briefings of that. But maybe he himself considers his Chelsea career not untouchable in terms of, looking at what's going on, reading the room. But just to let you know my position, I'd like to keep Jackson, especially for a bit longer. I think he could be excellent, and I'd like to see him for a whole domestic campaign with decent competition. I want to learn how that affects him before I make my decision. Bayern Munich are also one of the several teams that want Renato Vega, the defender. Yeah, he's very much high profile. He was a very clever acquisition in terms of the profit Chelsea will make on him. Midfielder Leslie Ugachukwu is liked by Premier League clubs and across Europe. Doesn't surprise me. He's ruddy wicked. Yeah, it's a shame, like I said yesterday, that it didn't work out. I mean, Dario Asugo is the guy that's essentially making him leave Chelsea. But people will tell you that know more about football than I, that Dario Asugo could be really good, so fine. Valencia have inquired about the situation. Chelsea are only interested in the sale, not a loan. I did hear some conflicting stuff yesterday, but yeah, trying to make that money, obviously. The same situation with Carney Chukwuemeka and Borussia Dortmund, where he has been on loan since February. The Bundesliga club want to loan him again with an option to buy. However, Chelsea do prefer straight transfer. Goalkeeper Georgi Petrovic is a Sunderland target. Yeah, man, this is how the mighty have fallen. I really thought he was going to go to a Champions League team. Maybe, obviously not in the Prem, but like a fourth place Serie A Italy team or something like that. Not a promoted team that, to be honest, were not favourites to get promoted even from the playoffs and they're somehow in the Prem. Yeah, apparently there's 5 other teams that are interested in him. Chelsea have a gentleman's agreement in place which allows him to leave for £25 million. Bit of profit there, of course. So, let's learn a little bit about the PSR purposes, the sales, so we know what's going on. The Athletic detailed last month Chelsea have little fear of breaching the Premier League PSR rules this summer. In fact, we estimated they could lose the most of any club, pre-tax of course, without falling foul of the regulation. This was less true abroad. Of course, we had the £27 million fine, 31 million euros from UEFA for breaching their financial rules. The fine took headlines, but the importance to Chelsea in the here and now was the sporting sanction handed out across the coming 2 seasons. They won't be able to register any new players for European competitions without selling first. So it's still there to be had. As part of the settlement regime with UEFA, Chelsea have agreed they can only register new signings if their List A transfer balance, being the registered squad for the European competition, is positive. In other words, any new costs stemming from incoming players must be offset by players being sold. Now, there's more details there. I'll leave it for you to go and read if you want, but the long and the short of it is Chelsea are calm and relaxed about the situation. They do believe they will generate huge revenue by making sales. Of course, the players are there. To be honest, they proved it before. Remember when they had that insane Graham Potter squad with players in the hallways and, just all over the gaff, and loads of high-profile players that knew they didn't want to be there, that knew they weren't being used, didn't want to be there. Surely they're distressed assets. Well, you've got too many players and he doesn't want to be there, and you're not going to use him because you don't like him. That's a really strong position for the buyer. But despite all that, Chelsea just absolutely cleaned the deck, made loads of sales. And to their credit, they had a really successful selling window or two. So they've proven they can do it, and they will back themselves to do it again. And then should they get a lot of, Who's not being mentioned there? Joao Felix, well, he's being linked back to Benfica for a 30 million euro move, but they can't, which Chelsea would take, by the way. They would accept that. But it's more to do with the wages over there. But he's already indicated he would like a homecoming back to Benfica. Bless him. I do feel kind of bad for Joao Felix. I mean, as bad as you can feel for a footballer that gets paid hundreds of thousands per week and has played for Barcelona, Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, you know. But yeah. And of course, Raheem Sterling, which is just mental. I can't even fathom what's going to happen with Raheem. All right, leave it out to you guys. What do you think? Please do leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Of course, do keep it locked here to Football Therapy. I will be here to review all the games immediately after, provided I'm awake. And keep you up to date with all the Chelsea news. And if you are interested in additional content from me, do check out the second channel, Football Yannick, where I also upload every day on the big footballing stories on planet Earth. Right, enjoy the football, hopefully. See you in a bit. Peace.